Okay, so we're live now on LinkedIn and YouTube, did the Facebook, and we're doing a few other social media live broadcasting. So let's get into it for today's blog about the podcast format and the recent events that are happening and how we're going to tie that into the podcast that's we're coming back with in January. So end of January, we'll start the podcast back up again. So we're preparing to introduce a new podcast format, which is designed to showcase mastermind just enough to help the leaders to start thinking clearly. And because there's so much to catch up with the AI space, how do we not spend months and months and years to chase after specific AI information that we need for our personal use cases? So we have to come to a mastermind and be able to capture those information in let's say, short few hours, if not short few weeks. So we don't have to spend months and years chasing after details that we should have probably captured in the early stage and would have done better off, right? So because of the format, we will talk about something that is happening right now and some of the recent events that you cannot ignore, right? So over the past few weeks, you've seen some disruptions that impacted services in many organizations, which we always say those organizations are pretty much always on, right? They're always available, but because of their interruption, like Verizon ones from last week, and then you've seen AWS go down a few months back. Cloudflare went down a few times actually over the last few months. And then you remember CrowdStrike from that blue screen of death that happened in 2024. So these are not fringe platforms. These are foundational layers to your modern digital operation, right? If you think about Akamai, if you think about many of these behind the scene organization, they really matter because if they go down, the world goes down with them, at least fraction of the world. But because they're fragmented, even now, it's going to create a pattern, and these patterns are going to become really disruptive, and it's going to cost a lot of money for a lot of organization or individually as well. So many people will frame these incidents as a unexpected failures, but in reality, most of these are root caused. The root cause of these failures have been known and have been expected for a very long time. So if you think about like Canada had an outage that was over a few days, I would say, or a few hours, but the whole city went down, right? Whole city went down, had no internet, nobody was able to communicate, nobody was able to exchange text messages. That is pretty much the infrastructure that went down, right? And that infrastructure has been around for a long time, but really hasn't caught up to the demand signal that has increased over time. So on top of all of that is over centralization of infrastructure. So these infrastructures are not distributed. Well, it should have been distributed, but it hasn't been distributed because of inability to invest income or invest revenue into these problems, right? So you're increasing system complexity without those governance, right? So you have complexities that's growing to match the demand signal, but there's no governance to back it up. And then the dependency chain that were never stress tested for your AI scale. So now that we're talking about something that is not AI related, but because we scaled and now we're finding out all these problems. Now imagine how AI will impact that data traffic highway, that ability to produce that much data and send it back to where it needs to go to be processed. You will have tons of these issues that will come up, and this is not just a one-off disruption that will happen. It will continuously will happen, and this slow collective action around resilience, observability, and decision ownership will definitely prove itself to be either valuable or in a sense that it will show us that you know what the value of it is, right? So either we are proactive or reactive. So if AI is accelerating on the demands in the system that was built for a different era, the warning signs has always been there, right? So what has been missing is going to require lots of coordination and a lot of execution in order to, at minimum, reduce this disruption. Because this is not something that I can say a utopian version of it, like you wave the wand and everything gets fixed. No, it requires lots of investment and lots of city level, state level, federal level investment as well. So continuous learning for AI is definitely now a leadership requirement, right? Because we're not talking about having a tech idea or a tech technology as the business process, and outsourcing it to somebody within an organization is no longer an option, right? Everybody has to really drive their technological need, because that's how they will communicate, that's how they will make decisions using this technology. And if somebody who does not do that now, or thinking about not doing it in the next 10 years, I completely understand. That's a choice, but that's a calculated choice as well, right? You have to be able to go through a mastermind and figure out, how do you say, nope, not going to do AI, not going to do technology. I make plenty of money without technology. Why change now? And I think that's fine, because you had to weigh that information, do a cost of missed opportunity measurements, and then make that decision as well. But anybody who's working to do artificial intelligence adoption or implementation, you really have to sit there and think of business impact analysis, your financial justification of why you would make ROI next 6 months, but over next 6 years, that ROI might not be there, right? Unless you put the right pieces in place, like infrastructure, like hardware and software and data. So a real advantage will come from understanding AI across time, not just a single snapshot. So today's LLMs is not something that you will probably have in next few years. So right now you have to think through AI for what it is, and then find the future use cases of AI that you can adapt to. So you have to start doing early stage experimentation, your transitional scaling, right? How do you scale over time, and how do you mature those operations that will use AI? But if you're using AI and AI matures, but your operation doesn't, there's lots of these failure modes that you have to discuss, find recovery patterns, discuss MTTR from a different perspective, right? What we are used to, or what we are accustomed to, will change based on these artificial intelligence adoption and implementation. And the leaders who understands how AI evolves also can make decisions faster, with more confidence, and with fewer surprises. So leaders who only understands tools will only react after the fact. So something breaks, we fix that tool, then we move on. But again, that's the cost of missed opportunity, that somebody can say that's an acceptable risk that we will move forward with. So when pace eventually slows, and it will, the winners will be the ones who already built judgment while the system was unstable. So you were able to um, observe and make your judgment, and then find the unstable system to say, this is acceptable amount of risk. I really don't need a stable system, but where I do need stable system, I cannot do without. So this is some of the cost of missed opportunity measurement that we will do along with the business impact analysis. So this podcast format that we're talking about on January 26th, when we go live on January 26th, the podcast will focus on something most AI conversations will skip, right? We're not trying to do any hype. We're not trying to do any demo. And we're not trying to do any vendor pitches. What we're trying to do is simulate a real-time scenario where you will face with multiple team members. So say if you're implementing an AI by yourself, kudos to you, and nobody else will use it, but only you will use it. That's great. But if you have a team that you're working with, and this artificial intelligence maturity will require those teams' feedback, so we will start exploring how this AI system will behave as they mature, and if they don't mature, and what happens when the when you put it on a production and it breaks for the first time, what to expect from that, and how your infrastructure, your people, and the process will collide under the pressure, because there will be a lot of real-time challenges of bringing the system back in 6 minutes rather than 6 hours, or at least, or at worst, 6 months later, right? You don't want that to happen, because we've seen that in the software space, how much of a damage it does to the full life cycle of a deployment. And then how leaders can recognize your weak signals before outage becomes headlines, right? Because there's a lot of these observability methods that you can put into place in order to understand that this is a trouble that's coming. And the trouble that we saw on DevOps and software development will change, because now we're talking about AI, right? This is not something that techies can measure anymore. It's the individual contributor, each employee who's a non-techies will have to be able to keep an eye on these systems and say, yep, there's a trouble brewing, and we know the downtime is coming, right? So this is about seeing AI in motion, and not just learning AI concepts. It's really to capture all this information that will probably take either real time 6 months or 6 weeks in school, but you can do it in short, choppy bits for a few hours a week that you can accelerate on your AI knowledge and AI adoption a lot faster, instead of wandering about looking for the right solution. So every outage and every disruption and every unexpected failure will be a signal, right? It is a signal. So the organization will start paying attention. They will use this moment to sharpen their decision making frameworks and understand their risk management framework, implement that, educate people on it, and have everybody get involved. Because when you're looking at your business process, your best contributor is not an AI, but rather your subject matter expertise that's already in the business. So the ones that do not are going to be forced to be on a reactive mode, right? They're going to be in a reactive mode. They have their own cost of missed opportunity, but there's always a proactive version of it, which is to say, how do I reduce the downtime from 6 months to 6 minutes, if not 6 hours, right? So the podcast that we're going to do is going to be built for leaders who wants to understand AI as a live system and then not a static capability, right? So it's not a dashboard, it's not a report that's going to generate 24 hours later. It's going to be real-time AI systems that's going to actually continuously work and continuously develop with the rest of the team. So we're looking forward to unpacking this together. We're going to go live on January 26th. If you have any questions or comments on this, feel free to ask. Again, we will come back online on Thursday, January 22nd, and looking forward to any questions or comments you have. And then, of course, you're welcome to come and join us on January 26th as we do the live event of Mastermind for about 45 minutes. Okay, a little over time today, but thank you all for listening in. I hope to see you soon. Take care. Ciao.